The sky cracks and the curtain tears. Hey guys, tonight we're not drifting into a calm meadow or a quiet village. No, tonight we walk straight into the trembling earth of Jerusalem, right at the foot of the cross, when the sky forgets how to hold itself together and death doesn't quite act like death. You're going to feel the wind whip your face, smell the metallic scent of blood and thunder, and hear voices crying out both in agony and awe. Spoiler, you wouldn't survive this. But you're here now, in this dream, and you've got a front row seat to the unraveling of history. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Share your location and the local time in the comments. I love seeing where we're all tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're standing just below Golgotha. The hill has teeth. Jagged rocks grin like cracked bone under your sandals, and the wind tastes of iron and smoke. 3 crosses loom above you, wooden and rough, swaying just slightly as if unsure of their place in the wind. The central figure is slumped, now limp, drained, finished. That's Jesus. You don't have the words for what just happened. No one does. Suddenly, the ground hiccups. Not a rumble from below, but a vertical lurch like the world is trying to remember how to breathe. The sky, just moments ago thick with clouds, splits like an overripe fig. It doesn't roar. It cracks. Thunder? Maybe. Or the sound of something bigger than sound. From the city below comes a different kind of taringa ripping, shrieking kind of sound. You glance toward the temple, though the view is partly blocked. What you can't see with your eyes, you feel in your spine. The curtain, the one separating the Holy of Holies, has been torn in two from top to bottom. It's 40 feet high and thick as a man's hand. No human did that, or at least no human with only human strength. Scholars still debate whether this veil's tearing symbolized access to God, the end of the priesthood, or a cosmic enough is enough. But you just feel the shiver. People are running. Some scream, some pray. One Roman centurion, the guy who minutes ago had been driving nails into wrists like it was part of a lunch, shift drops to his knees and says, "Surely this man was the Son of God." You lock eyes with him for a second. He's not crying, but something behind his pupils is soaked. A group of women nearby are frozen in place. Mary, his mother, leans slightly forward. You don't know whether to hold her up or step back and vanish. She doesn't make a sound. Maybe she's listening. Or maybe she's holding up the world by not collapsing. The wind changes. It smells like torn bread and spilled wine. Or is that just your mind replaying last night's Passover feast? To your left, a man is digging his fingers into the dirt like he's searching for something to anchor him. Another is scribbling on parchment with frantic energy. You later hear he's trying to write everything down before the spirit takes it. The guy next to him keeps whispering, "It wasn't supposed to end this way." You wonder, what does ending even mean here? Lightning flashes, but there's no thunder. The light doesn't blink and vanish. It hovers gold, like oil floating atop water and then recedes into the sky. You think you see a shape in it. Wings, maybe? Or robes? A friend of yours will swear he saw an angel holding back the sky like a theater curtain. You won't argue with him. And then, silence. Not peace, just silence. The air becomes too still. Even the birds seem to duck out of this moment. You glance back up. The figure on the center cross hasn't moved, hasn't breathed, but something around him pulses with a kind of pressure, like gravity, but personal. You back away slowly, your steps careful, as if one wrong move might snap the world again. A nearby woman, probably Joanna or maybe Salome, clutches a small cloth to her chest. You don't ask what it is. You don't need to. Far off, you hear temple priests shouting. You're not sure whether they're panicking or organizing or both. Someone mutters about earthquakes near tombs outside the city wall. Later, you'll hear wild rumors about dead people showing up again. Not walking dead, not spooky dead, just showing up. You glance at the horizon. The sun is low, but honestly, it's hard to tell whether it's setting or just done. The air remains thick, heavy like unbaked bread. You know you're supposed to leave soon, the Sabbath is near, and none of this is proper, but your feet won't move just yet. Somewhere in the distance, a donkey brays. An odd detail. You latch onto it because it feels normal, human, like something still obeys physics. You look up one last time. The face above you is still. The crown of thorns has dug deep. Blood tracks like ink across his brow. His lips are parted, but no more words will come. You think about that last cry. It is finished and wonder, what exactly was finished? Your shoulder bumps a stone. You turn, blinking. The moment has passed. Sort of. The sky is calmer now. The wind gentle. But your bones still buzz. You decide to follow the man with the linen, Joseph of Arimathea. Maybe if you help him carry the body, some of this will start to make sense. Maybe you just want one last moment with him. You follow Joseph of Arimathea through the alleyways of Jerusalem, feet catching loose stones in the twilight. He's not walking fast, but he's moving with a strange kind of urgency, like a man who just asked death for a favor and is hoping not to be noticed. He's holding a bundle of linen under one arm, the corners brushing the dust. You glance behind you and see Nicodemus trailing with jars of myrrh and aloeso, much spice it could perfume an entire wedding feast. It's excessive, almost absurdly so, but maybe that's the point. You wouldn't expect a wealthy member of the Sanhedrin to be doing this. You know, Joseph kept quiet when the others condemned Jesus. Maybe this is his quiet rebellion. Or maybe guilt, or maybe just maybe he finally believes. The sun dips low, but the shadows feel heavier than usual. The air is sticky with tension. Everyone knows the Sabbath begins at sundown, and touching a corpse makes you ritually unclean. But Joseph doesn't seem to care. He's not acting like a man who plans to eat with the others tonight. You arrive at the garden. It's quiet, tucked behind a rock wall, and there it is, the tomb. New, unused, cut clean into the stone, with that fresh dug smell like wet dust and raw earth. Joseph gestures silently, and you help him lower the linen to the ground. The body is already there. You blink. Somehow, between the crucifixion and now, they moved him. You don't ask how. It doesn't seem right to question that part. What matters is what happens next. You kneel down. You're not sure why. Instinct, maybe. Reverence. His face is pale now, gray at the edges, but strangely peaceful. Like a man who just finished a long, impossible race and somehow won. You reach out, brushing a loose strand of hair away from his brow. His skin is cold but not cruel, just done. Nicodemus breaks the silence with a puff of cinnamon-scented dust. He's begun unsealing the spice jars. You help. The work is methodical, almost gentle, the way a baker folds dough. You wrap the linen carefully, layer by layer. Myrrh sticks to your fingers. It smells like both burial and celebration. Why so much, you ask. Nicodemus shrugs, eyes red-rimmed but steady. For a king, he whispers. You wonder, is this a burial or a coronation? Scholars still debate whether this tomb was meant for Joseph himself or just a convenient hiding place. Either way, it doesn't feel like a final destination. It feels like a waiting room. There's a moment when everything goes still. The wind quiets, the birds hush, even the trees seem to hold their breath. You pause, your hands resting on the linen wrapping his feet. You whisper, maybe to him, maybe to the silence, I'm sorry. You think of all the things you didn't do, all the things he said that you half understood, all the miracles you saw and still doubted. You think of the fig tree, the wine at Cana, the blind man who saw before you did, and you think, was this always where it was headed? You remember a strange story he once told about a kernel of wheat falling into the ground and dying. It sounded poetic at the time. Now it feels uncomfortably literal. Together, you and Joseph lift the body and carry him into the tomb. The stone is cold beneath your feet. You place him gently on the slab carved from the rock wall. For a borrowed tomb, it's beautiful. Smooth walls. No smell of decay. It hasn't known death until now. Outside, the sky turns a deeper orange. Sabbath creeps closer. You step back, taking in the scene. One man dead, two men confused, 1,000 questions, 0 answers. Joseph rolls the stone in place. It's heavier than you expected. It groans against the earth like something protesting its own closure. When it seals shut, the sound echoes deep in your ribs. You stand there for a while, not because there's more to dope it, because you don't want to leave. Nicodemus finally places a hand on your shoulder. "Come," he says. The sun is nearly gone. You walk back toward the city in silence. Every step feels like a betrayal, like maybe you should have stayed longer, or cried louder, or done something more. On the way, you pass by a fig tree. It's bare, despite the season. You stare at it. It stares back. Later, you hear they posted guards outside the tomb, just in case. A few people scoff at the idea. As if he could escape, they say. But secretly, you think maybe it's not him they're worried about. Maybe it's the people. Maybe it's you. That night, Jerusalem goes quiet. The streets feel deserted. Shutters are closed. Candles burn low behind windows. You lie on a rooftop, staring at the stars, wondering if one of them just dimmed. You can't sleep. Every time you close your eyes, you see his face. Not the bruised one from the cross, but the face that turned to you when he called your name. The face that wept for a friend. The face that flipped tables and laughed at your bad jokes. You wonder where he is now. Not just his body. Him. The part that turned bread into more bread and tears into joy. There's a story you once heard about a righteous man descending into the underworld to free the captives. It felt like myth. Tonight, it doesn't feel so far-fetched. Some say the tomb is the end, but as you lie there, sleep finally pulling you under, something inside you itches an idea, small and stubborn. What if it's just the middle? You wake to silence. Not the peaceful kind, like after a rain. This silence is tense, like the world holding its breath, waiting for a punchline that never comes. The city's unusually still, and the air tastes like something sacred and unfinished. It's Sabbath, a Saturday. You'd normally hear soft singing, doors creaking open, families gathering with candles and prayers, but today feels suspended, like someone hit pause on the universe. You stretch, rubbing the sleep from your eyes, still half hoping yesterday was a dream, but the ache in your chest says otherwise. Downstairs, Mary is sitting at the table. Not that Mary, his mother, she's just there. Her hands wrapped around a cup she hasn't touched. The kind of grip you use when you're trying not to fall apart. You nod silently and sit across from her. No one says a word. In the corner, someone's preparing food. Probably Joanna. She slices bread without looking down, as if her hands remember what her mind has forgotten. You notice there's no wine. Maybe no one wanted to drink today. Maybe it just felt wrong. You expected mourning, weeping, wailing in the streets, but that came and went already. This is something else. Stillness, numbness, like the whole city agreed to forget how to move. You go outside for a walk. The streets are nearly empty. A few families shuffle quietly toward synagogue. No one greets you. Not out of rudeness, more like, what's the point? You pass a street vendor's stall, shuttered tightly. A half-eaten fig lies in the dust. It's drying out. You don't pick it up. On the edge of the city, you run into a man leaning against a wall, head tilted toward the sky. He doesn't speak at first. Then he says, "They say he said he'd rise." You look at him. Do you believe it? He shrugs. Does it matter? Then he chuckles dark and dry. If he doesn't, nothing changes. If he does, nothing will stay the same. That line follows you home like a stray cat. Later, you help Salome press oil into cloth, preparing more burial spices, just in case. The conversation drifts like a lazy river. Do you think the Romans will let us near the tomb again, she asks. You pause. With guards there? Probably not. But we should try. You nod. Of course you should. It's the right thing. That's what today is about, trying to do the right thing, even if it feels hollow. Like setting a table for someone you know isn't coming. As the sun crawls toward the horizon, people begin lighting Sabbath lamps. Flames flicker in clay bowls, casting dancing shadows on the walls. You sit by one and watch the light. It wobbles. And then someone, maybe Mary Magdalene, maybe you, says it out loud. What if it wasn't a failure? Everyone turns. The air tightens. What if this was the plan, she continues. The dying, the burial, the silence. What if this day, this nothing day, is part of it? You want to believe her. You almost do. But your brain resists. It's easier to mourn a loss than to expect the impossible. Hope is exhausting. Scholars still debate what exactly happened on this Saturday. Did Jesus descend into Hades, free the captives, rest like God did on the seventh day? You wonder, did he take a breath in some other realm while the world spun, clueless and aching? The hours stretch. You swear this Sabbath has 36 hours, not 24. At one point, someone starts to hum an old psalm. Even though I walk through the valley, it trails off before finishing. Feels too real now. You go outside again. The moon is rising, pale and distant. You look toward the garden tomb. You can't see it from here, but you feel its weight, like something's gestating in that rock womb. You sit by the fire and stare into the embers. For a moment you imagine him sitting there too, grinning the way he used to when the bread came out just a little burnt. Charred edges. He once said, "Tastes like forgiveness." You chuckle. The others give you a strange look. Just remembering, you say, that night your dreams are odd. You're walking through water, but it's dry. You're in the temple, but the veil keeps fluttering like it's still being torn. You see his face, but it's shining and distant-like, looking through oil on glass. You wake up before dawn. The city's still asleep, but something in you isn't. It's buzzing. It's whispering, like a song you half remember from childhood. It's not loud, not even certain, but it's enough to make you stand. Mary Magdalene is already at the door, cloak wrapped tight. She doesn't say anything, just meet your eyes. You know exactly where she's going. And so, for the first time since the sky cracked open, you allow yourself a single impossible thought. What if this silence is the inhale before the shout? The sky is still more shadow than light when you slip through the streets with Mary Magdalene and the others. You're wrapped in layers, not just for warmth, but for invisibility. No one wants to be seen this early, carrying spices and hope toward a tomb under Roman guard. You keep your head down, but your mind races. Every footstep is soft, deliberate, like walking on a secret. The city hasn't quite woken. Smoke curls lazily from a few chimneys, and the birds are still undecided about singing. You pass a fig tree and reach out, brushing a leaf. No fruit, just silence, fitting. Mary is carrying the bulk of the ointments, though you keep offering to take them. She waves you off. She's moving like someone with a destination so locked into her soul, even fear can't override it. Her face is pale in the early light. Determined, yes, but something else too. Expectation, grief, both. The air thickens as you approach the garden. The tomb is just ahead. Your heart picks up speed. You're not sure why. Nothing has changed. He's still gone, but something feels different. You round the corner and freeze. The stone. It's moved. You blink. Once. Twice. It's not a trick of the light. That massive wheel of rock, the one you helped Joseph roll into place, is no longer sealing the tomb. It's sitting to the side like a piece of forgotten furniture. The entrance gates open, black and still. You whisper, "Did the guards?" But there are no guards. Just two helmets on the ground, one sword stuck upright in the soil like a weird flower, no blood, no struggle, just absence. Mary is already moving. She rushes forward, ducking into the tomb before anyone can stop her. You hesitate because, honestly, who runs into a tomb? Especially one that's supposed to hold the body of your murdered friend/Messiah? But she's not screaming, so that's a good sign. You follow. Inside, it's colder than you expected. And empty. Completely empty. The stone slab is there. The linen wrappings are renently folded, as if the guest checked out and left the bed made. But Jesus? Not here. Your brain stutters. Your body doesn't move. You just stare at the wrappings like they might offer commentary. They don't. And then there's a glow. You whip around. Two figures, sitting where the body should have been, dressed in white, but not white like linen or paint white like lightning just before it explodes. Their faces are calm, too calm. One is perched at the head, the other at the foot, like celestial bookends. "Why do you seek the living among the dead?" one asks, as casually as someone asking why you're still awake at 3 a.m. He is not here. He has risen. You don't answer. You can't answer. Your mouth forgot its job. Mary stumbles backward, her hand on her chest. Another woman, maybe Joanna, starts sobbing, but it's the confusing kind. Not grief, not joy, something unfiled. You feel lightheaded, like your entire bloodstream is turning into steam. The angels don't seem to mind. One of them gestures toward the exit. Go, tell the others, just as he said. Ah yes, that line, just as he said. You suddenly remember all those weird cryptic comments Jesus made about rising, rebuilding temples in 3 days, Jonah in the belly of the fish. You thought it was metaphor, parable stuff, Jesus being Jesus. But now, scholars still debate the exact moment Jesus rose. Was it sometime before dawn? Did the angels roll the stone to let him out or just to let you in? The Gospels don't say clearly. But in this moment, standing inside a tomb full of light and linen, you realize whatever happened, it wasn't for his sake, it was for yours. You stumble out into the garden, eyes squinting against the sunrise. The gold light is spreading across the dew-covered grass like honey over warm bread. Mary starts running. You run too. Back through the alleys, past the fig tree, back to the place where the others are still hiding behind locked doors and even tighter hearts. You burst in, panting, eyes wide. He's gone, you shout. They all turn, blank stares, blinking sleepily. One mutters, gone as in stolen? No, Mary says. Her voice is sharp, crystalline. Gone as in alive. Peter's already standing. John's beside him. They don't even ask questions, they just bolt out the door. Someone grabs your arm. What exactly did you see? You try to explain. The tomb, the angels, the linen, the question. Why do you seek the living among the dead? Someone laughs nervously. Another mutters something about hysteria. But you know what you saw? And for the first time in 2 days, you feel something push up from your chest. It's not logic, not comfort, not even joy. It's possibility. You sit down on the floor, catching your breath. In your lap, a flower petal has stuck to your cloak, white with the faintest gold edge. You didn't see any flowers in the tomb. You keep it anyway. Tomorrow, people might call you delusional. But today, you saw angels on the morning shift. And they said he's not here. You don't mean to run. It just happens. 1 second, you're gaping at Mary Magdalene's face, her words still vibrating in the air. He's alive. And the next, you're sprinting down the street behind Peter and John, sandals slapping, breath burning. The streets blur, the corners of buildings whip past. John is faster, he always eye-sand. Peter is grunting with each step, like a man chasing regret. You're just behind them, heart pounding like a war drum, not sure if you're chasing a miracle or running from madness. You reach the garden, and there it is, the tomb, open. Just as Mary said. The stone is still rolled aside like some divine hand flicked it away during breakfast. John stops short, hesitates at the mouth. Peter barrels past him, of course he does, and dives right in. You hear his voice echo inside, sharp breath, a gasp, then silence. You lean against the wall, trying to still your lungs. John finally steps forward and ducks in. You follow. It's just as before. Linen, strips, folded cloth. No body, no mess, no answers. You glance at Peter. He's staring at the empty spot where Jesus should be. His hands are at his sides, fists clenching and unclenching like they don't know whether to pray or punch something. No angels this time, just air and questions. John squints at the wrappings. Why would anyone steal the body and fold the linens like that? You shrug. Maybe no one stole it? Peter doesn't respond. He just steps back out into the morning light. The sun is higher now. Birds are chirping again. How dare they? The three of you walk back, slower this time. No one speaks. The fog is lifting from the city, but not from your mind. Back at the house, the others pounce with questions. What did you see? Was he really gone? Was anyone there? John gives a soft nod. It's empty. Someone sits down hard. Someone else starts praying. You slump into a corner. You're supposed to feel overjoyed, right? Resurrection, victory, end credits. But all you feel is fog. Not sadness, not disbelief, just the uncanny. Like waking up from a dream that followed you into real life. A bowl of olives sits untouched on the table. Someone's been trying to distract themselves with snacks. You pop one into your mouth. It's bitter. Go figure. Mary Magdalene is pacing now. She keeps mumbling under her breath. At one point she stops, eyes wild. "I saw him," she whispers. You freeze. "He was there," she says louder now. "I thought he was the gardener. But then he said my name." You stare at her. "You saw him?" She nods. "He told me not to cling to him. Said he hadn't gone to the Father yet." The room stiffens. Someone knocks over a cup. Scholars still debate the timeline here. Who saw him first? Was it Mary? Was it Peter? Were there multiple appearances layered like a dream? But in this room, time has melted. All that matters is what she just said. "Where did he go?" someone whispers. Mary shrugs. "He said to tell the others that he's ascending, that we should meet him in Galilee." Galilee? That's a couple days' journey. The logistics alone are exhausting. You sit back and stare at the ceiling. A crack runs across the plaster like a vein. You trace it with your eyes, wishing someone would just hand you a map of what's coming next. Instead, someone hands you a loaf of bread. You tear off a piece. It's warm, oddly comforting. You think of the last time he broke bread in front of you, the way he blessed it, the way his eyes locked with yours as he handed you a piece. He knew. Back then, at that table, he knew he'd die. And now, apparently, he knew he'd live again. You mutter, "We should have seen this coming." Thomas, from the corner, snorts. "Speak for yourself." He's leaning against the wall, arms folded. "Until I touch the wounds, I'm not buying it." You nod. Fair enough. The others start debating what to do. Go to Galilee? Stay here? Pray? Hide? Preach? Someone suggests napping. You sneak back outside. The city's alive now. Vendors setting up. Children playing. It's like the world forgot what just happened. You walk past the fig tree again. Still no fruit. Still no answers. But this time, you pause. You reach out and gently shake a branch. A single leaf drops. You take it. Put it in your cloak pocket. You don't know why. Maybe one day it'll mean something. As you turn to walk back, you whisper to yourself, "If he's alive, everything changes." You feel the words settle in your chest. Not like certainty, more like yeast, slow, expanding, making room for belief. You head home, the fog hasn't cleared, but now it's lit from within like mist catching sunrise. You don't see him yet, but you're beginning to look. The door is locked, dead bolted, barred, reinforced with a chair just in case Roman soldiers suddenly develop a flair for breaking and entering. You're inside with the others, all of you packed into a small upper room like forgotten fruit in a jar. The air is thick half tension, half sweat. No one's eating. The bread is there. The fish is there. But no one's touched either. They're just props at this point, waiting for a scene that never comes. You sit by the window, peeking through a slat. The city looks normal, which is the most suspicious thing of all. People walking, vendors yelling, someone balancing dates on their head like it's any old Tuesday. But you know better. Something is coming. You can feel it. Peter is pacing. His sandals scrape the floor with every step, like he's wearing guilt for shoes. At one point he mutters, "I said I'd never deny him." You pretend not to hear. Bartholomew is fiddling with the lock for the 10th time. James is counting how many pieces of bread are left. It's 7. It was 7 yesterday too. Then Mary says, "What if he's here?" Everyone freezes. You glance around. No knock, no footsteps, no creaking of stairs. Just silence and candlelight. And then he is. Just like that. No door, no draft, no warning. 1 second you're staring at a wall, the next he's standing in front of it. You drop your cup. It doesn't even shatter it, just thuds, like the air is too stunned to let things break. "Peace be with you," he says, which is funny considering he just teleported into a locked room. You open your mouth to respond, but your throat decides now is a great time to seize up. He smiles, not a glowing, mystical smile, just a regular, tired one. The kind you give after a long journey and an even longer nap. "Why are you troubled?" he asks. "Why do doubts rise in your hearts?" You want to answer. You really do. But how do you explain that you're experiencing equal parts terror, hope, disbelief, and possibly mild indigestion? He holds up his hands. The wounds are still there. Then he lifts his tunic, slightly shows the side. Peter lets out a sound somewhere between a sob and a gasp. You look at your own hands. They're shaking. Touch me, Jesus says, walking forward. A ghost does not have flesh and bones, as you see I have. Thomas isn't here, which feels like a cruel cosmic prank. But no one laughs. You reach out, hesitate, then make contact. His skin is warm, solid, and yet there's something different, not spectral, just more. He turns toward the table. Do you have anything to eat? It's such a bizarrely normal question. You nearly laugh. Nearly. You point at the fish. Someone nods, still too stunned to speak. Jesus walks over, picks up a piece, and eats it. Chews, swallows. Wipes his fingers on the corner of his robe like he's done it 1,000 times. That's when something in the room shifts. Not the air, not the lighting. You realize you're not afraid anymore. He sits down, and then he starts explaining. Not preaching, not storytelling, explaining. Like a teacher going over the final review before a test you didn't know was scheduled. These are my words that I spoke to you while I was still with you, he says. That everything written about me in the law of Moses, the prophets, and the Psalms must be fulfilled. He opens the scriptures, not physically, but with words, and it's like someone's pulling back a curtain in your brain. The stories you've known since you were a child suddenly bloom with new colors. The serpent crusher, the suffering servant, the Passover lamb. It was all him. Scholars still debate what open their minds really means here. Was it a supernatural download, a spiritual unlocking, or just finally listening with hearts cracked open wide enough for truth to seep in? Whatever it was, it's working. You're sitting there, watching the man you buried explain why death didn't get the final say. He finishes with a simple line. You are witnesses of these things. You look around, at the others, at the bread, at the fish bones. Yeah, you really are. A breeze wafts in from somewhere, and for a moment you think it smells like lilies and campfire smoke. It makes no sense, but you accept it. He stands. You flinch, thinking he'll disappear again, but he doesn't. Instead, he places a hand on your shoulder. You're going to tell the world, he says. That terrifies you more than the crucifixion ever did. But he's still smiling, like he knows something you don't, like he believes in you more than you ever have. Then, just like that, he's gone. Not with drama, no thunder, just gone. The candle flickers. The fishbones stay. The door is still locked. But inside you, something has opened. You exhale. The others look at you. You all start laughing, not because it's funny, but because the alternative is crying so hard you never stop. You lean back, staring at the ceiling. Ghosts don't eat fish. But apparently, resurrected kings do. You needed to get out of that house. The room was still buzzing with disbelief and half-eaten joy, but you couldn't stay cooped up with the sound of your own heartbeat echoing against four walls. So you leave. Not for good, just a walk. Just some air, just space. Cleopas is walking beside you. Neither of you really planned to go together, it just sort of happened. Two stunned minds looking for a path to walk while your thoughts try to catch up to your feet. Emmaus is about 7 miles from Jerusalem. Not far. Just enough distance to make things feel different without actually being different. You start talking. At first, it's aimless. Fragments of the past few days. Mismatched memories of the trial, the crucifixion, the rumors of resurrection. You both circle around it, like dogs sniffing at a fire, not quite sure whether it's safe to get closer. Did you hear what Mary said? Cleopas asks. You nod. Saw her face. That wasn't someone making up stories. And Peter still processing. Cleopas chuckles. Aren't we all? You both go quiet. And then a man joins you. You don't know where he came from. 1 second it's just the two of you. Next, he's there, not in a magical puff of light, just walking. like he'd been behind you the whole time and finally decided to say hello. "What are you two discussing as you walk along?" he asks. You blink. "Are you the only person in Jerusalem who hasn't heard what's been happening?" He smiles. "What things?" Cleopas dives in, recounting the events of the past week. Jesus of Nazareth, prophet, mighty in word and deed, handed over, crucified, dead, buried, and now there are whispers, strange stories, a tomb that doesn't hold what it should. You watch the stranger's face as Cleopas speaks. No shock, no surprise, just a knowing calm. Then he says something strange. "Oh, foolish ones, and slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have spoken." Rude, right? But his voice is so kind, it feels more like a diagnosis than an insult. And then he starts talking. You've heard scripture before, recited, quoted, interpreted, but never like this. He walks you through Moses and the prophets, line by line, like a man cracking open an ancient code. Everything fits. Every jagged piece of the past slots into a new picture. Isaiah's suffering servant, the sacrificial lamb of the Exodus, the pierced one from Zechariah. Every story you thought you understood now points to him. You glance at Cleopas. His eyes are wide, mouth slightly open, like he's listening to thunder dressed in soft words. You arrive at the village as the sun dips low, casting long golden shadows across the road. The stranger looks like he's about to keep walking, but you grab his arm. "Stay with us," you say. "It's nearly evening. The day is almost over." He nods. Inside, the room is simple. Clay walls, a table, a loaf of bread, nothing magical, but something in the air feels charged. You sit. The stranger picks up the bread. Funny you expected Cleopas to do it. After all, it's his house. But the stranger holds it with practiced hands, breaks it, blesses it. And then, your breath catches. It's him. Jesus. It's the way he holds the bread, the way he breaks it, the quiet authority, the familiarity, the warmth, the unspoken grace in the moment just before offering. You lock eyes with him, and in that instant, it's like a curtain inside your soul rips open. Everything makes sense and nothing matters except that he is alive and here, and breaking bread like he always has. And then, he vanishes, just like that. Not with a bang, no flash, no sound. One blink he's there, next blink he's not. You and Cleopas sit frozen, staring at the space where he'd just been. Then Cleopas slaps the table. Were not our hearts burning within us while he talked with us on the road? You laugh, giddy, disbelieving, overwhelmed. Yes, burning. You both leap up. Dinner forgotten, bread half eaten. You run back down the road to Jerusalem, back through the dusk, back over every dusty mile. You arrive breathless, gasping, faces wild with firelight. The others are still in the room. They jump up at your entrance. "He was with us," you shout. "We saw him." In the breaking of the bread, everyone talks at once. Excitement, confusion, joy, it collides into a sacred kind of chaos. Someone pours wine. Someone finally eats the bread. You sit down, lungs aching, and let it settle in. He met you on the road. He walked beside you when you didn't recognize him. He broke bread with you. And then, he vanished. You think about that for a moment. Maybe that's how it is now. He shows up when you least expect it, walking beside your sorrow, warming your heart, breaking bread in your kitchen, and then disappearing just when you think you finally understand. You smile because you didn't imagine it, and because tomorrow you'll be watching for him everywhere. Even in your morning toast. You'd think by now, with angels, empty tombs, vanishing messiahs, and scripture bingo on the road to Emmaus, that everyone would be fully convinced, joyful, unified, handing out fish-shaped confetti. But no, because Thomas wasn't there, and Thomas has opinions. You're all back in the same upper room. Doors locked, windows latched, hearts slightly more open than before. The atmosphere is better, like someone lit a hope-scented candle. People are talking faster now, laughing even, sharing stories. Cleopas is on his third retelling of the Emmaus moment and still getting misty-eyed at the breaking of the bread like a man reciting a wedding proposal. That's when Thomas arrives. He strolls in like someone late to a party that already passed peak excitement. You wave. You missed it. He squints. Missed what? Jesus was here. He appeared, ate fish, talked, poofed away. Thomas raises an eyebrow. Poofed? Vanished, Peter adds. Right, Thomas says, in that tone people use when they're too polite to say, "You've all lost your minds." He crosses his arms. Unless I see the nail marks in his hands and put my finger where the nails were and put my hand into his side, I will not believe. Well then, you exchange glances with the others. Some are frustrated, some amused. A few are probably a little relieved. Thomas just said out loud what they were all secretly thinking 2 days ago. Scholars still debate why Thomas wasn't there that first night. Was he grieving in solitude, hiding, grabbing groceries? But one thing's clear. He's not a villain here, just a realist. A man who's been hurt enough to build walls and smart enough to ask for evidence. So you let it sit? The next week is quieter. The mood stays lifted, but you can feel the tension. Thomas is polite, but distant. He listens to every story and nods thoughtfully, but never engages fully. He's like someone in the room but not of the room, a sleeper agent of skepticism hiding in a cloak of manners. The night Days Laterate happens again. Same room, same locked doors. You're cutting figs at the table, trying to slice without squashing. Bartholomew is telling a joke that would definitely have earned a head shake from Jesus. Thomas is in the corner, fiddling with his belt. And then, he's there, Jesus. No knock, no creak, no warning, just Jesus. Peace be with you, he says again. You drop the knife, Thomas freezes. Jesus turns and looks straight at him. Doesn't scold, doesn't sigh, just holds out his hands like an invitation. Put your finger here, he says. See my hands. Reach out your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe. Thomas doesn't move. Then, slowly, like gravity reversed its rules, he steps forward. He doesn't reach out right away. He just looks, eyes tracing every scar, every mark. His breath shortens, his lips part, his knees wobble. And then, my Lord and my God. That's it. No fancy prayer. No theological treatise. Just a sentence that cracks open his soul and pours it at Jesus' feet. Jesus smiles. Because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. He's not just talking to Thomas anymore. You feel it, like a breeze brushing through your ribs. He's talking to the millions who will come after. The ones who will hear and wonder and wrestle and still whisper yes through the fog of not knowing. Thomas collapses into a seat. He doesn't cry, just sits there, stunned and glowing. Someone brings him bread. He eats it slowly, reverently, like it's the first thing that's ever made sense. You think back to your own doubts, the locked room, the broken body, the stone rolled away, the 2 bright angels. Thomas didn't miss the proof. He just got his own moment. And somehow, that makes it all feel more real. Because now, even the most stubborn heart is cracked open, even the one who needed to see, saw. That night, Thomas tells the story of that moment, again and again. Not with shame but wonder, the kind of wonder that makes even you see it anew. You lie down later on a mat in the corner, arms behind your head, someone snoring gently, a lamp flickers low. You smile into the darkness. Because faith isn't just for the ones who believe right away. Sometimes, faith arrives after dinner, with nail-scarred hands and the patience to wait 8 whole days for one soul to say, "My Lord and my God." You've made it back to Galilee. Home turf, rolling hills, familiar dirt, the lake sea of Tiberias, or Lake Gennesaret, depending on who's telling the story, is as still and shimmering as ever. It smells like old nets and fresh wind, like the kind of place where stories start, not where they circle back around. And yet, here you are. Again, the city was too loud, too full of tension and staring eyes, and not enough breakfast. So Peter said what Peter always says when his brain's too full and his heart's too broken. I'm going fishing. Of course you all followed. There are 7 of you total. Peter, Thomas, Nathaniel, James, John, 2 others whose names keep getting missed in the retelling. But they matter. You all matter. Disciples aren't props. Even the quiet ones have stories. You pile into the boat just before dusk. The wood creaks like an old friend remembering your weight. The sails patched but proud. The lake welcomes you with open arms and 0 fish. Classic. You cast. Reel. Wait. Cast again. All night long. Nothing. Not even a bite. It's like the fish read the script and decided to boycott. By sunrise, your shoulders ache, your eyes sting, and your stomach is writing angry psalms about the lack of food. Then you see him. You don't know it's him. Not yet. There's a man on the shore, standing with hands behind his back, like he's been waiting since the beginning of time. He calls out, voice skipping over the water like a stone, "Friends, haven't you any fish?" Peter mutters something not quite holy. John sighs. "No," you shout back. "Throw your net on the right side of the boat and you will find some." You exchange a look. "This again?" Still, you throw it. Why not? And the net explodes. Okay, not literally, but it might as well have. Suddenly it's groaning with fish, jerking the boat sideways, and requiring at least 4 of you to keep it from tearing apart. You look up. John's face is white. "It is the Lord," he whispers. Peter doesn't wait. Of course he doesn't wait. He grabs his outer garment because naturally he had taken it off mid-fishing, throws it on, and jumps into the water. You're halfway between gasping and laughing. Only Peter would get dressed to go swimming. You row, he swims. The boat's heavy with fish. Your arms burn, but you don't care. Jesus is on the shore, waiting. When you land, he's already built a fire. Charcoal neatly arranged. A few fish already sizzling. Bread warm and waiting. He doesn't say, "Told you so." Doesn't call you out for running back to fishing. He just gestures toward the food. "Bring some of the fish you've just caught." You help haul in the net. 153 fish. Exact. Scholars still argue why the number is mentioned. Symbolic, literal, numerology, who knows. But here's what you do know. It's too many for one meal. Jesus says, "Come and have breakfast." And no one they know and they that is ask, "Who are you?" Because deep down, you sit, the fire crackles, the fish smells like memories, the bread is warm in your hands, he passes it to you, he breaks it, you eat, it's all familiar. The feeding of the 5,000, the Passover meal, the table in the upper room, same hands, same rhythm. But now you know something more. This isn't just about eating. This is about presence, about resurrection not being a one-time stunt but a continuing invitation. He looks at you, not through you, not past you, but at you. Like he still sees you, still wants you. You chew slowly, letting it sink in. The wind picks up a little, the fire pops. Peter is sitting on a rock, dripping wet, steaming in the morning sun. He keeps stealing glances at Jesus like a kid waiting to be called into the principal's office, but hoping it'll just be recess instead. You finish your food. The moment hangs. You remember that night on this same lake years ago. The first time you saw him calm a storm. The first time he told you to drop your net and follow. Full circle. Only this time, he's come after you. You didn't climb your way to him. You fished your way into failure, and he showed up. That's the kind of Messiah he is. Breakfast maker, fire builder, fisherman's friend. You'll never see bread and fish the same again. And, in that warm, fire-scented silence, that you'll follow him again. Even if he disappears after dessert, the fires burn low. The last fish bones rest on a rock. The bread is gone, and now there's just silence. The kind that hums around unfinished conversations. You're leaning back on your hands, belly full, heart uncertain. Jesus is staring into the coals, quiet. Peter is pretending not to fidget, though he might as well be waving a giant banner that says, please don't bring it up. But Jesus brings it up. He turns to Peter, gentle but surgical. Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? Oof. You feel the group stiffen. No one looks at Peter. No one breathes. Peter swallows. Yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Jesus nods. Feed my lambs. Silence. Again. Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter's brows knit. Yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Take care of my sheep. A third time is almost cruel. Almost. Simon, son of John, do you love me? This time, Peter breaks. You hear the hurt in his voice, the salt behind his words. Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. Jesus nods. Feed my sheep. You don't miss the pattern. 3 questions, 3 affirmations, 3 echoes for the 3 denials by the fire that terrible night. Only this fire is redemption. This time, Jesus isn't erasing Peter's failure. He's weaving it into something new. Scholars still debate why Jesus uses different Greek words for love in this exchange. Some say it's poetic nuance, others, divine emphasis. But in this moment, you don't care about grammar. You care that Peter is being restored. Publicly, lovingly, awkwardly, because healing rarely happens in private. And sometimes it sounds like a repeated question and the scent of fish on your fingers. Jesus looks at Peter again. Very truly I tell you, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. But when you are old, you'll stretch out your hands and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go. That lands heavy. Peter hears it, you hear it, everyone hears it. It's a glimpse of the cost ahead, of crucifixion, of martyrdom, of following not just in life but in death. Then Jesus says what he said since the beginning. Follow me. Peter blinks, still stunned. Then classic Peter Hay glances over his shoulder and sees John. What about him? You almost laugh. Even in the middle of a spiritual breakthrough, Peter wants to know if someone else got a better deal. Jesus doesn't scold, just smiles. If I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? You follow me. You sit with that. You follow me. Not them, not the crowd, not your ego, not your fear. Me. The waves lap gently against the shore. The fire is embers now. And Peter? He finally exhales. You've never seen him lighter. Not because the weight is gone, but because it's been shared. You think back to that moment in the courtyard, the cock crowing, Peter's face, the fleeing. And now, here he is. Forgiven, recommissioned, redeemed. You glance down at your hands. You haven't denied him 3 times, but you've denied him in your own ways. Quiet ways, safe ways, convenient silences, strategic avoidance. This fire isn't just for Peter. It's for you, too. The voice that said, feed my sheep, is saying, don't run from your worst moments, bring them to the coals and let me cook breakfast over them. You stand, stretching. Jesus is already walking along the waterline. Peter follows. You smile, because this time, when Jesus says, follow me, you don't hesitate. Not because you're sure, but because he is, and somehow that's enough. You're climbing now, feet pressing into warm Galilean dirt, the morning sun curling over the hills behind you. The others are with you, 13 of you, if you count the newer faces. No one's quite sure how many disciples are technically in at this point, but everyone's here for one reason. He told you to come. And when Jesus tells you to meet him on a mountain, you don't argue. You crest the hilltop and pause, panting slightly. The air smells of dry grass and wild thyme. The Sea of Galilee glimmers far below, familiar and impossibly peaceful. You can hear the buzz of insects and the soft wind threading through olive branches. Then he's there. No fanfare, no thunder, just Jesus, standing on the ridge like he's been waiting all along. Some worship immediately, fall to their knees. Others stand frozen, unsure whether to bow or sprint or burst into song. And some doubt, and he doesn't stop them. That part sticks with you, because he could have shamed them, could have said, seriously? after everything? But he doesn't. He simply stands there, patient as sunrise, welcoming both the worship and the wavering. You draw closer. His eyes meet yours, still warm, still tired in the way that only resurrection could make a man tired. You expect him to give a grand speech. He doesn't. He just starts talking. All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. He says it so plainly, you almost miss the scope of it. All authority. Not just over storms and sickness and fish, but over everything. Galaxies, gravity, kings, atoms. You grip a nearby stone just to ground yourself. Go therefore, he continues, and make disciples of all nations. You glance around. There's no parchment, no blueprint. Just a small group of confused, resurrected, rattled humans, and Jesus is pointing at the whole world. You make disciples of all nations? You've barely figured out how to make breakfast, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. Triple-layered holiness. Some scholars still debate whether this is the first clear Trinitarian formula. You don't know about that. You just know it sounds like belonging. Teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. That's when your stomach knots slightly, because you remember some of what he commanded. Turn the other cheek. Love your enemies. Give away your coat. Forgive 70 times 7. This is not going to be a low-effort mission. Then he says the line that will stick with you the rest of your life, and surely I am with you always, to the very end of the age. Not maybe. Not if you're good. Not when you feel spiritual. Always. You feel those words land in your bones. Warm, heavy, true. He looks at each of you again, not for effect, just for love. His gaze lingers, as if he's memorizing your faces, as if he knows how far you'll travel, how many times you'll bleed, how often you'll want to quit. Then, he begins to rise. No wings, no lightning, just lifting, slowly, quietly. The wind picks up as if to help him along. His feet leave the earth, and your heart almost does too. Your mouth opens, not to speak, just to gasp. He rises higher, sunlight crowning his form. The sky swallows him, like a curtain drawn back around a departing king. Then, he's gone. Just clouds now, a few birds circling, and the unmistakable emptiness of a goodbye you didn't want. You all stand there like statues, eyes to the sky, waiting for the credits to roll. That's when 2 men in white appear beside you. Why do you stand here looking into the sky? One asks, not unkindly. The same Jesus who has been taken from you into heaven will come back in the same way you have seen him go. And then they're gone too. No one speaks for a while. Finally, Peter clears his throat. So, Jerusalem then? You nod. That's where he said the next part begins. You take one last look at the sky. Still blue, still bright. But it feels different now. Like he touched it. You start walking. The others fall into step behind you. You don't have maps, or funding, or a catchy name for your movement. All you have is a promise. And it's enough. You're back in the city, back in the upper room. The same walls, same windows, same long wooden table that still bears faint scorch marks from when someone definitely Bartholomew knocked over a lamp during the third retelling of Emmaus. But now, it's fuller. 120 of you, give or take, packed into this room like bread into a basket. It's been 10 days. 10 days since Jesus rose into the sky like morning mist and vanished into the light. 10 days of waiting, praying, eating, staring at the ceiling, repeating his last words in your head like a song you're afraid to forget. Wait in the city, you will receive power, the Holy Spirit will come. You don't know what power means, or spirit, or how you'll know when it arrives. Will it knock? Will it shimmer? Will it fill the room with light or laughter or earthquakes? So you wait. You start the morning with prayer. Maybe breakfast, maybe both. Peter's still taking the lead. He's a little more serious now, less likely to blurt, more likely to pause. Resurrection does that to a man. John keeps to the edges. He watches more than speaks, like he's measuring the air for signs. And then It happens. You hear it first. Not outside. Inside. A sound like wind, but there's no breeze. Like someone opened a storm in the middle of the room and it's rushing through your bones, not just your ears. You look up and fire descends, but not wild, forest fire kind of flames. These are controlled, personal. They divide, resting on each person, one by one. A flicker above Matthew's head, another above Salome. One settles over you, and it doesn't burn. It feels warm, expanding, like breath turning into music. You try to speak and you do, but not in Hebrew, not in Greek, in something else. Your mouth moves, and words fall out that don't belong to your childhood, or your family, or your schooling, but they feel right. You glance at the others. They're all speaking too. Different tongues, languages you've never heard and definitely never studied, but somehow you understand them. It's not chaotic, it's orchestral. Dozens of voices layered together, singing the same message in the tongue of every tribe under heaven. Someone flings open a window. Outside, Jerusalem is pulsing. It's Pentecost. Jews from all over the empire have flooded the city. Parthians, Medes, Elamites, Mesopotamians, Egyptians, Libyans, Romans, Arabs. They hear the noise and rush toward it. And what they hear makes their eyes go wide. Because you're speaking their languages, fluently, passionately. Not like someone mimicking syllables, but someone telling them the deepest truths in the mother tongue of their soul. You're drunk, someone yells. You laugh. It's 9 a.m. Also, this is the most sober you've ever felt in your life. Peter stands, clears his throat, and starts preaching. This time, no stammering, no sword waving, no sink or swim drama. He speaks with fire in his belly and clarity in his eyes. He quotes Joel, "In the last days, God says, I will pour out my spirit on all people." He talks about Jesus, his life, his death, his resurrection, his ascension. He says, God has made this Jesus, whom you crucified, both Lord and Messiah. And the crowd, they don't riot. They repent. "What shall we do?" someone shouts. Peter doesn't flinch. "Repent and be baptized, every one of you, in the name of Jesus Christ." That day, 3,000 people are added to your family. 3,000. You're suddenly part of something way bigger than upper rooms and mountain breakfasts. You're part of a movement, a wildfire that speaks every language and crosses every border and breaks every chain. Scholars still debate what really happened in that room. Was it glossolalia, known heavenly language, or xenolalia actual, earthly dialects? Was the wind audible to outsiders or just symbolic? Did tongues of fire physically appear? You don't argue with them. You just remember the feeling, the heat, the sudden knowing, the sense that heaven had cracked open not just above you but in you. That night, you sit on the rooftop again. The stars look closer. The city hums with stories, people recounting what they heard, what they felt, what they now believe. You touch your chest, still warm, still burning. He said he'd send the comforter, and he wasn't kidding. Now the wind doesn't frighten you. It fills your sails. The Spirit changes everything, but it doesn't make you invisible. You're healing people now, preaching in the streets, sharing everything in common. The early days are electric, like walking through a thunderstorm with lightning in your chest. The city doesn't know what to make of you. Some are amazed, some are curious, some want you gone, especially the religious elite. The same council that engineered Jesus' execution is now watching your every move, scribes furiously noting your words as if miracles can be outlawed with enough paperwork. One morning, Peter and John are walking up to the temple. You tag along, a little behind them, when it happens. A lame man stationed at the gate called Beautiful calls out, asking for money. Peter stops. "Silver and gold I do not have," he says, voice steady. "But what I do have I give you. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, walk." The man stares, then stands, then walks. then dances. You blink. So does everyone else. The place explodes with praise. People are shouting, some crying, some running to tell their cousins. You feel the pulse of joy mixed with chaos, like heaven just played a chord nobody saw coming. And that's when the guards show up. Peter and John are arrested before you can say communion, hauled off like criminals. You watch helplessly as the crowd parts, voices rising in confusion and protest. That night, you gather in the upper room again. The door is locked. Some things don't change. You pray, hard, loud, honest. You don't beg for comfort. You ask for boldness. And just when you think you'll need to start writing Peter's eulogy, he walks in, free, smiling like he just got away with borrowing God's keys to the prison. Turns out, an angel showed up during the night, opened the doors, told them to go back to the temple and keep preaching. You laugh, you cry, you want to ask if the angel had wings or just a good sense of direction. Peter doesn't say, he just takes a piece of bread and sits down like it's all perfectly normal. The next day, he's back in the temple. Same spot, same message. The council drags him in again, fuming. Didn't we order you not to teach in this name? Peter shrugs. We must obey God rather than men. It's not bravado, it's clarity. And that clarity spreads. Stephen stands out among you. He's bold, full of grace and power, doing signs that stir up both faith and fury. You know it's dangerous. He knows it too. Still he speaks. He debates. He confronts. And then he's arrested. Dragged before the Sanhedrin like a lamb into a courtroom of wolves. You watch from a distance, heart hammering. The trial is a farce. The charges ridiculous. Stephen stands, glowing, literally. His face shines like someone switched on heaven behind his eyes. He launches into a speech. It's not gentle. He walks them through their own history. Abraham, Joseph, Moses laying down truth like a bricklayer with purpose. And then he calls them stiff-necked, calls out their resistance, says he sees Jesus standing at the right hand of God. That's when they stop listening. They drag him out, stone him. You're frozen, watching in horror. One man, holding everyone's coats, doesn't throw stones. But he watches, intently. His name is Saul, and he'll matter later. You flee the scene before they come for more. Back in the room, you cry. You pray. You stare at Stephen's empty mat and the cup he left on the table. It's still half full. You don't know what to do with the grief. But you know this. Stephen died standing up for the truth. Unashamed, unapologetic, lit from the inside. That night, you sleep only a little. When you do, you dream of empty prison beds and stone-scarred prophets who wouldn't shut up even with death breathing down their necks. You wake up tired, but more dangerous than ever. Because now you've seen what happens when ordinary people are filled with something extraordinary. Not just fire, but freedom. The kind of freedom that makes angels walk through walls and fishermen face kings. And you know, the world's not ready. But here you come anyway. You feel it the moment Stephen dies. Not just in your chest, but in the ground beneath you. Like the earth took a deep breath and held it. You carry his name in your bones after that. Stephen. First to fall, first to blaze a trail in the shape of a cross. You remember his last words echoing above the shouting, Lord, do not hold this sin against them. You still don't know how he managed that. But someone heard it. Saul. He didn't throw a stone, but his silence shouted loud enough to crack pavement. He stood there, arms crossed, watching like a man appraising livestock, cold, focused, even proud. You remember his eyes, calculating, hungry. He didn't blink. After that, something shifts in the air. Persecution isn't a whisper anymore. It's a storm. The upper room's empty. The houses scatter. You and the others fan out like dandelion seeds, carried on the breath of fearing strangely purpose. The irony? The more they try to crush the message, the further it spreads. You head towards Samaria, Peter and John go north. Philip goes into Gentile towns. And Saul? He sharpens his mission like a blade. He becomes the council's golden boy, the man with letters, with license, with the backing of the establishment. He kicks down doors, arrests men and women, drags believers into the daylight with the fury of a man convinced he's doing God a favor. And yet something's off. You hear rumors, whispers. People say Saul flinches in the silence, that he doesn't sleep much, that he asks strange questions, like, why do they sing while I beat them? Or, why do they smile when I say blasphemy? He's chasing the movement with fire, but deep down you suspect it's chasing him. One day you pass through a village in Judea and meet a woman who heard Stephen speak. Her eyes light up when she remembers. He didn't just talk, she says. He glowed, like he'd already been in heaven and couldn't wait to get back. You nod. You know that glow. Later that night, someone knocks on the door. You freeze. It's not a soldier. It's Philip. He tells you about Samaria, about miracles, about Simon the magician, about joy breaking out in the unlikeliest places. This is what gets you. Even as Saul hunts, the Spirit haunts. Everywhere. Even the wrong people, Gentiles, Samaritans, outsiders are hearing and believing. It's almost rude how generous God is. You remember what Jesus said, "You will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, and in all Judea and Samaria, and to the ends of the earth." Turns out he meant it. Even the Samaritans. Especially the Samaritans. One night you pray for someone who's sick and they're healed. Not theatrics. Not drama. Just quiet, holy reversal. And in that moment you realize Stephen isn't gone. His voice echoes in your hands, in your footsteps, in your yes. Scholars still debate whether Saul knew Stephen personally, whether they had exchanged words before the trial. But one thing's certain, Stephen cracked something open in Saul, a question buried under rage. And that question, is following God really about controlling others? Or about losing yourself to something bigger? You wonder where Saul is now. Then you hear, he's on his way to Damascus, with letters, with wrath, with righteous fury boiling in his chest. You shiver, because you know what that road does to people, especially when Jesus decides to interrupt. You look around your small borrowed room, walls cracked, oil lamp flickering. You feel the tension again, that hum, that waiting. Someone's going to break, and you have a feeling, deep in your bones, Saul of Tarsus is about to meet the ghost you've been following, and he won't walk away the same. None of us will. You don't hear the story from Saul, at least not at first. You hear it from the people who were there, from Ananias, who nearly choked when God told him to visit the man who'd been hunting his friends like wild animals. From the believers in Damascus, who expected blood and got a brother instead. From the stunned silence of the synagogues, where Saul showed up not breathing threats, but preaching Jesus. You sit under a fig tree when the news reaches you. Saul's preaching the gospel. You nearly fall off the rock you're perched on. What? They nod. Claims he saw a light, heard a voice, was blind for 3 days, then baptized. You just stare at them. The man with the coat check job at Stephen's execution? Him? The one who kicked in doors like they owed him rent? Now preaching grace? You don't know whether to laugh or pray, so you do both. That's the moment you realize this story isn't safe. It's not neat. It refuses to stay in its corner. Because if Saul of Tarsus can be transformed, anyone can. The message keeps spreading. Philip baptizes an Ethiopian official on the road, the Spirit snatching him away like a leaf on the wind. Peter has a vision about unclean animals that leads to the conversion of a Roman centurion named Cornelius. The Spirit falls there too. No temple, no tradition, just raw, radical inclusion. The borders of belief are being redrawn. You end up in Antioch, where the believers are first called Christians. A weird word, new, foreign in your mouth. It's not what you'd have picked, but it sticks. And somehow it feels right. Little Christ, tiny reflections, portable temples. You remember the upper room, the bread, the fish, the wind. And now, look at you. Scattered, yes, but burning. You meet people you never would have spoken to before. Women, Gentiles, Romans, former tax collectors, former enemies, some who speak in strange tongues, some who carry scrolls, some who carry scars. You begin to see the church not as a location, but a movement, a living, breathing body. And somehow, you're part of it. One day, Saul no call Paul shows up in Antioch. You're nervous. You still remember Stephen's blood. But Paul's eyes are different now. Less fire. More furnace. Like a man who's been reforged. He doesn't avoid the past. He names it. Owns it. Then tells stories of grace punching through his rage like sunlight through prison bars. You believe him. Not because he's eloquent, but because he's honest. From there, the story runs wild. Mission trips, shipwrecks, house churches, letters written from jail cells, debates about circumcision and freedom and law and love. Some scholars say this was the birth of the church. Others say the church was born the moment Jesus breathed on his disciples. You think it's still being born. Every time someone says yes, every time someone breaks bread and remembers, every time someone speaks in a tongue they never learned or forgives someone they never should have. You lie awake some nights, listening to the sounds of the street below. You hear sandals shuffling, children laughing, dogs barking at shadows. You think of Jesus, not just the miracle worker, but the foot washer, the question asker, the ghost at the dinner table. You miss him, but you also know him, now more than ever, because he's not just in the room anymore. He's in you. The light, the fire, the whisper, that crazy promise he made. I am with you always. It wasn't poetry. It was strategy. You see now, the kingdom wasn't built on swords or schemes. It was built on people. People who eat fish for breakfast. People who doubt. People who run away and then come back. People who sit around a fire and whisper, "Did your heart burn too?" People like you. And now, it's your turn to go. To speak. To walk rows and break bread and lift the name of the man who walked out of a tomb and into your life like he owned the place. Because he does. You stand, tuck the scroll into your cloak, blow out the lamp, and step into the night, which now feels a lot more like morning.